Okay, so here we have the Path for Tall Fiddler live. Now, this song as a whole was kind of the worst of both worlds for me, and we'll get to the notes part later, but right now I'll talk to you and explain why the path was kind of annoying as well. So, let's start off at the beginning, best place to start as always. First phrase, no problem at least. Then our second phrase gives us our main problem, which is our farmer says problem. We have a whammy immediately, a short whammy, followed by the activation on the next note. So, it sucks. The tempo's, 150, so getting any good whammy out of this isn't that easy, and it gets worse later on when the tempo increases, but for now this isn't that easy. And yeah, teleporting finger after whammying onto the button is not going to happen for me. So I did the opposite of Farmer Says, and instead of doing the whammy and tilting, I just ignore the whammy completely. So I just didn't whammy these notes and just went for the activation point. You still get the phrase obviously, but you're losing out on a couple notes maybe. So yeah, bad marks straight away for this song's path. Next phrase, in fact, quite a lot of the phrases in this song are all the same. These three phrases are all the same. This one's a little bit shorter, but they all end on this green, red, yellow sustain most of the time. So yeah, identical phrase, and these two we can whammy because there's no act straight away. Another phrase that's the same, getting the whammy out of that, and then after the third identical phrase in a row, we get our second activation, and this one's not bad. So we're waiting for when we get these green, yellow, orange chords, so sort of a rare chord, so you can't miss them. And all we're doing is just waiting for the fourth green, yellow, orange chord. And this one, it stands out because there's a gap, and then the orange is reapplied. So it's kind of obvious to tell where the activation point is, if you know that it is the activation point, of course. Yeah, so we activate here. Overlap this, never had any trouble with the overlap. I mean, there's no reason why you would. We've got three phrases and a bit of extra whammy. So yeah, the overlap is fine. And we just end about here. That one's okay. Phrase activation 3 is the same problem as the first one, except this time we can whammy the first one, but the second one we can't whammy, and it's a faster tempo. So yeah, same deal as the first one. I just excuse me, waited till the second phrase showed up, remembered not to whammy, and just activated on the next note with no whammy. And we're not losing that many points really. I'm probably losing a couple of maybe 400 points. So it's not the end of the world, but this whammy, at least it made me feel like I was losing a lot of points by not whammying these notes. But yeah, third phrase pretty much the same as the first. And then we activation, should I say, not phrase. So fourth activation and last activation. We have a regular phrase here, and then we have our another identical phrase essentially. So many phrases in this song are just this thing that ends on the sustain. We can whammy this one, and this time we're waiting for the fourth red, yellow, orange. So the second activation was the fourth green, yellow, orange, and the fourth activation is the fourth red, yellow, orange. So yeah, I just remembered that acts 2 and 4 were the ones where we activated on the fourth chord, and then activations 1 and 3 were the ones where we're not whammying. And yeah, after we activate on this note, whammy this phrase, and yeah, that's the last act. Now this overlap, kinda tight. You need good whammy here, at least, passable whammy, and maybe a little bit of a squeeze to overlap here. And I didn't realise how tight it was. I normally just hit it, but it was possible to miss, and I missed it a couple of times. So yeah, not the easiest overlap in the world. So I was just trying to hit this last note of the phrase as early as possible and whammying like mad. Not that the whammy would have made that much of a difference to the overlap, but just, I don't know, trying to get as many spare points as I could. But yeah, that is the path for Tall Fiddler, 465k. I think somewhere around 460 was what I was getting, so it wasn't even that bad really. But yeah, this song, I didn't like the path, and I didn't particularly like trying to see it either, so we'll get over that now.
Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the notes for Tall Fiddler live. Now this one, as I was saying in the path, it's kind of bad in terms of path and in notes. This one was a nightmare all around. Being known for chords, I think, chords and RB3 are sort of what I think people would say my strongest suits are. But for this one, I just could not get the grasp. I couldn't grasp it, so I never picked it, and it was picked against me once in the grand finals, and I didn't do very well in it, as I expected. So yeah, I'm not going to be that much use on this one, but at least say what I did to make myself consistent at as much as possible. So as far as this goes, the intro is fine. Really, the only trouble you would have is when it goes from this yellow to the single green. Just not letting go of yellow at the right time can sometimes cause that to drop. But otherwise, it's just all down, up, down. Use all the hammer-ons and it's fine. So that's not really a hard part, at least the intro isn't. Now, the main theme, this is where it sort of gets bad. These chords, I don't really know what it is about them, maybe it's just a mental block, but sometimes I would either miss the green, the one note that's not in it, the blue, orange, or the red, yellow, so there was a chance I could miss either of those notes, even at the slower tempo part. And I think the reason for that is transitioning from the yellow blues to the blue oranges, there's a chance that I would just keep anchoring yellow inadvertently, and then when it comes to the red yellow, it's either holding the blue or letting go of the yellow and just trying to hit it as a single red, and it would screw you over either way, obviously. So yeah, there was not really any way of getting consistent with this. It was more just focusing on hitting this this blue orange. So just making a conscious effort to make sure I was lifting my finger off the yellow to hit this chord, and then as far as hitting these three notes without making a mistake, just basically down to fate, I'm not going to lie to you. So I'll at least play it. And it wasn't as much of a problem in this first part because it's relatively slow, but when it gets faster later on it's really bad, but I'll show that later. Alright, but the second half of the riff I had no trouble with. So the first time playing through the song it might look a bit stupid, but if you use reset strumming through this, it's pretty easy. And I think the case with this one was basically playing it through a few times till you got the feel of it. And I don't think there's really many, or if any, variation on it, even when it gets faster. So just learning the pattern of the notes there. There's a few chords that change on up strums, and you should also, well, I used the hammer-on in it, just made it easy. So yeah, just using reset strumming for this section definitely helped it be like pretty much 100% consistent. I don't think I was missing this part at all, in contrast to the other half of the main theme. So yeah, they're the two halves of it. There's nothing else new that happens in the song, really, besides a little guitar solo thing. But it does have variations in tempo, and therefore it becomes a bit harder. So, re-intro. This is obviously the intro, but faster. So if I slow it down to about 70% speed, it's basically the same thing. But the way you tackle this, it's exactly the same as the intro, except it's a bit harder to get your finger off the yellow into the single green. So it's a lot easier to miss the single greens. And also there's a point where the green notes disappear, and it's just the top notes right here. But the thing is with that is that the way you hit it does not change, because you can anchor green below those notes. So it's exactly the same thing all the way through this section. And it's very hard to do that while talking. So it's all sets of 3 strumming. Does not change from sets of 3. And when the greens disappear, we just pretend they're still there. So it's basically 4 cycles of exactly the same thing. Okay. So then we get into what is the worst part, which is the speed up part of the first half of the riff. And there really isn't anything new, it was just doing it faster. And that was one little thing to watch out for when it there's the sustain instead of the triple chord into it. So you don't change anything, the only thing that's different is you're hitting the blue orange with a down strum instead of an up strum this time. Probably makes it a bit easier, to be honest. And to be honest, with this whole chord bit, yeah, you can have on days and off days. You know, sometimes I could hit it all the time. I seem to be hitting it pretty well now, but sometimes it's just a mental block, and that's all it really is—a mental block with this stuff. Doing it up to speed is not too easy when it gets this fast. To be 100% consistent at them anyway. But then we get this, which is the same thing as earlier with the up notes. But there is a difference. There's a gap between this open note and the chords here, which I don't think happens in the slower version of it, so I'll just verify that now. So yeah, we have the little offbeat chord with 2 open notes after it, which doesn't happen in this. So it's sort of like an easier version, but it's harder because it's a faster tempo. But the same thing happens. We use no reset strumming, and during these slower bits where it's only 8th notes instead of 16th notes, we're just down strumming all of that. So yeah, it is possible to forget, like I just did there, and strum straight into the chord. Well, that's just a case of paying attention, really. So yeah, all we're doing is making sure that our down strum is always on the beat, and that keeps us right. I bet you can't play this part is pretty simple fretting. I do a lot of sliding in it, but this is not a main miss point. In fact, I would say that is probably a break. But you do have these chords at the end of it, and the way I'm doing that is the way probably everyone would do, where you slide your finger down from red to green, rather than sliding all the way to first position. Just slide to 1.5, and then slide these 2 fingers down to hit the last chord. So I guess just to show exactly how that works, because I don't know if people would be doing this, which is it's just too much motion to switch all 3 fingers. So you just shift in 1 and then 2. Yeah, probably a bit unnecessary to go that slow, but you know, just so you can see exactly what it is. Okay, and that's pretty much it. There is nothing else new in the song, I don't think. The very end of the song is a cross between the main riff, the harder one with the chords, and the bit I just showed with the chords. Kinda. Well, with that one you wouldn't shift to 1.5, but it's just you just do it all in first position. But they are there. And you see, that's what I'm on about with the missing the chord at the bottom. I finally missed one. I almost made it all the way through without missing one. So that's kind of a choke point as well, because it comes out of nowhere. And I'll probably do a double down into that, unless it already naturally starts on a down. I don't remember. Yeah, double down into that. But yeah, that is all there is to say about that. As I say, I wasn't too good at this song. I started off finding it fine, but then as time went on, I guess I developed a mental block with the chords and it became harder. But yeah, we will now move on to a run of the song. Okay, so that was Tall Fiddler, 461, looking for about 460 something. I don't know exactly what it was I was getting in practice. I only played this song once in a match, and I think I'll have said that already. But anyway, yeah, Tall Fiddler done. Next song is Jam It 110.